What's up and welcome to Champions of Lore, a show all about the kick-ass stories behind some of Idle Champion's coolest campaigns and characters. Every Monday at 11 a.m. Pacific Standard Time here on twitch.tv/CNE Games or later on your favorite podcast service, B. Dave Walters and Aaron M. Evans talk about all the Idle Champions lore that's fun to know about. If you're here with us live in the chat, you can leave a question that I, Treavor Bettis, will ask them later in the show, but that's not all. We have our first ever guest with us on the show today. She is a disability consultant on many TTRPGs you probably know and love, and she is the creator of Talin Uran. She's Mustang Art on I said Mustang's Art on Twitter. Sara Thompson, thank you for being here. How's it going?
Hi, I'm well, thank you. No, thank you for inviting me on. It's
Yeah.
actually really exciting. I love my boy Talon, so I'm happy to talk about him.
And we love him too. We wanted to talk about the new champion that was coming up, and we've talked about Freely, and we've talked about Frida and Havilar, and we've had B. Dave and Aaron here, so it felt like we needed to have Sara here to talk about Talon, and it's literally the best person to talk to about it. So I guess before we get into how has it been seeing Talon in the game?
I said on another show that it's kind of been very overwhelming and at times very surreal, because I'll have Idle Champions running in the background, and then I'll catch an animation or something on one of my other screens, and I'm just like, oh, it's Talon, and oh look, Drist is with him, and oh look, there's Jalaxel Bane, right? That's fun. Yeah, it's very surreal seeing my character with other established characters, whether they're from other people's podcasts, like Strix and Evelyn, or Cathris. So yeah, it was really, really fun to see that. And I also really love Talon's animations. I think all of them are lovely. And the animation and art team put a lot of time and effort into them. And yeah, they look amazing.
That's awesome. And I apologize, but Dave and Aaron, because the flow of the intro gets up. Who are you as well? For people who may just be catching this the first time.
That's true. People come in, they don't know us.
Yep.
Hi, I'm Aaron M. Evans. I am the author of the Brimstone Angels saga, a 6-book series set in the Forgotten Realms, which features the champions Havilar and Frida from our favorite game. I also play Cecilia on Dungeon Scrawlers Wednesdays on Twitch at 6:30 p.m.
B. Dave Walters, I say words about things. I'm Aaron Evans' stunt double.
He's amazing. You don't even know.
It's true. Yeah, it's like a ghost. Wrote Dungeons and Dragons: A Dark and Wish, the comic series. DM of that stream. Play Freely, the lucky boy who is in Idle Champions and can be found everywhere fine streaming content can be acquired, up to and including here. Thank you, Treavor.
I now really want to make a video that just has Aaron dramatically running towards the camera, and then it cuts to B. Dave jumping into a bunch of boxes, but in the same outfit.
With the
First of all, let's unpack this. You just want to see me in the lipstick, and let's be honest, I kind of want to wear it. I kind of want to wear it. I'm not going to look as good as she does in it, but I mean, I'm here for it.
Everybody looks good in this lipstick. That's the magic of the universal red from Petty.
Also, I feel that's true. No. They owe you money, yes. Because I'm certain you've sold some of that lipstick.
I hope so. It's an amazing lipstick.
Second thing, I feel like if we'd go with this fold Peter Pan thing, where she's like the little boy and I'm the shadow. it's how we'll. Yep. Mm-hmm.
So she plays back though, because she's your laugh double.
Definitely. It's true. It's my week isn't complete until I hear Aaron laughing. That is also true.
There we go. So yeah, Talon is in the game. Who is Talin Uran?
Talon is a tiefling rogue. He's a rogue thief, I believe, for practicality of it being in the Forgotten Realms and canon D&D lore. But in my home game I played him in, he is a rogue Daredevil, which is a subclass I made with the combat wheelchair in mind. So it's a rogue that can do basically WCMXing, which is BMXing but in wheelchairs. It was very much based on Aaron's Fotheringham who's called Wheels with a Z instead of an S at the end. And he puts all of his stuff up on YouTube. It's amazing. And I believe he holds one of the records for doing a flip from in a wheelchair, like from it just being still, I believe, or with like a small build up. It was very impressive. And yeah, that's kind of where Talon's inspiration came from. He's from Waterdeep. He used to be part of the Grandbar's Blades, and then was in an accident that caused him to be paralyzed from the waist down, and eventually wound up working with and for the Bragan Darth. And then I believe I mentioned it in the chat last week, had a disagreement with Jalaxel Bainray.
So curious what this disagreement is.
And they parted ways after that, but they've run into each other a few times since then. Kind of that weird, I guess you would call it Disney-esque frenemies, where they're kind of friends but also don't like each other. So yeah, that's Talon for you.
So do you want to go into it all what the disagreement with Jalaxel was? Because we are very curious.
We also recognize for narrative purposes if you don't want to tell.
Yeah, no, yeah, that's
True.
It
Hashtag
was
foreshadowing.
kind of an argument because it was a Dragon Heist game that I got to play Talon in. So we made it that Talon wasn't agreeing anymore with how Jalaxel was going about things. Like, he believed Jalaxel's cause was a good one, but he was going about it in all like the wrong ways. Like, don't get using people and things like that for a certain means to an end, especially in the way and on the scale that Jalaxel was planning to do it on. But Talon, ironically, is also a massive hypocrite, because what he tells Jalaxel is, hey, that's bad, you can't do that, but then he goes and does it. And if somebody like critiques him on it, he's like, it's different when I do it. Like, so Talon is very much he's more like Jalaxel than he wants to admit. And Jalaxel is also a little bit like Talon in certain respects, and I don't think Jalaxel would ever want to admit that either. So they're both as bad as each other, really, when it comes down to it. And when I was talking about, well, how do Talon and Jalaxel interact if they saw each other now? And I was like, great question, and I'm glad you asked, to the people when they were asking about Talon. And I said, it's very much Talon will find out what Jalaxel's doing, whether that's like completely by coincidence that he's kind of stumbled across it, or he's set out to like find it out himself. And then he's like, this looks like it took lots of months to plan. I am now going to destroy it and see what happens, for that kind of reaction. He finds it very gratifying to know if he's genuinely upset Jalaxel in some way. So it's all very like petty, but like they don't hate each other, which is also, well, they pretend they hate each other, but deep down, I think Talon really doesn't hate him at all. And Talon does have a lot of regrets about leaving the Bragan Darth now that he's actually left it. Not that he'd ever tell Jalaxel that ever, like, no. But he just is a very, very kind of contradictory character, and it really matches his buff and debuffs that he has, which was oh my gosh, the name is completely gone. Basically, it's like turning fates or something like that, that he has, where he can either buff good aligned characters and take away all the damage from evil aligned characters to give to the good characters, or he can just turn around and do it for the evil characters, because if Jalaxel asked him to do something like that, he'd do it, even though they're not friends. When Mars was streaming it, and he was like, wow, like Talon has taken all of the damage away from good and given it to like the evil characters like Jalaxel, and he was talking about how much damage each character was then putting out. And I put it in chat and made him laugh, because I said, Talon really be out here saying Jalaxel isn't my friend, and then he does something like this. And that's really kind of how Talon is. he's been a fun character, even though I've only played him a few times. Unfortunately, I played him in like a really short adventure set during Dragon Heist, and then I've also played him on the what is it, the How We Roll podcast. I played him as a guest character on that, and he got to fight a dragon and pretend he was a kobold for a bit, so that was fun. So yeah, he's a fun character to play, and also a lot of layers have gone into this character, and he's become like one of my absolute favorite D&D characters to ever like made and then used in a game.
Yeah, but before we started recording, you were talking about how 5th edition did Jalaxel wrong, and B-Dave, being the keeper of content, wisely said, "Save this for the show." So how did 5th edition do Jalaxel wrong?
It's more to do with the outfit they gave him. I loved Jalaxel in the R.A. Salvatore books and in like the earlier editions of D&D that he was in, where he had like, it was just unnecessary. He had like a crop top and a rainbow colored cape, and he had
my gosh.
And one of the things that they took away, which I really, really loved, and I wish they'd left in because it was such a mundane like magic item, and it was a set of bangles and high-heeled boots that he could either make be really loud or really quiet at will. And I love that. I was like, that's so Jalaxel, like make an entrance by making it as loud as possible, or like striding away from an argument and deliberately having your shoes and bangles be really loud. Like I felt that was very Jalaxel, and it wasn't in 5th edition, and I was like, my boy. So when I ran Dragon Heist for my players, I gave him those magic items back.
My Jalaxel.
And yeah, there are like in that game that I ran, there are some sessions where he does just turn up in his crop top again, and I'm like, I gave my boy justice. That's what he deserves.
I don't know why, but I want B-Day to have those shoes and bangles. I don't know why. I want him to be taller than he already is.
Not gonna lie, in my head, I'm like, I would rock the entire outfit.
Yeah.
To and the funny thing is, you say as loud as possible, or as quiet as possible. It's like I actually can be very sneaky when I want to, and people never expect it because I'm always like blah 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 blah, and then it's like, and then I'm behind you, and they're like, you know. So,
B-Dave is very, very tall.
Yes,
it's true.
I will be honest. You know the gif that there is of that dude reporting at an NBA show, and he's got that big beard, and Shaq just comes up behind him and just does this to him. I've wanted to recreate that with B-Dave.
When cons become a thing again, Trevor.
Oh, I'm growing out my beard.
Mark it down.
Mark it down.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I thought we could do what we did with the other character spotlight shows, where we go through the items that Talon has in the game, which I hear you actually had a lot of input on.
Yeah,
so,
I did. It was really cool.
Yeah. So the first one is the Tenacious Blade. The flavor text is we don't back down.
Mm-hmm.
So what's going on with that blade?
That blade is kind of a physical embodiment, I guess, of Talon's backstory and character growth, and the journey he kind of went through. Talon was, as I've said, like he was originally a member of the Grand Boss Blades, and I believe that they haven't been in D&D since either 3.5 or 4th that they were last mentioned, because they weren't in the Deep Dragon Heist. But yeah, so he was a member of that gang, and he got kind of like a uniformal blade that everyone, who works for them gets, and his was a rapier. And when he was in the accident while on a job in which a building collapse happened, crushing his lower half, trapping him, and then causing him to become paralyzed from the waist down, the blade itself also shattered underneath the weight of one of the I think it was a building, either a stone building like structure piece that fell on the blade. I can't remember. It is like written somewhere in the extensive backstory I have for this character, this absolute novel that I have. But yeah, he was then out of commission in regards to the Grand Boss Blades, They wouldn't let him go on missions and things. At that time, you know, combat wheelchairs, it wasn't that they weren't a thing, it was just like nobody really knew about them so much at that point in the setting that we were playing in. So Talon kind of became very despondent, and I put a lot of myself in Talon in regards to internalized ableism and overcoming that. As Talon, you know, joined the Break and Death, got this new wheelchair, this combat wheelchair, and it was, you know, given to him by Jalaxel and the crew, and he learned to fight and stuff again, became more confident in himself and his capabilities and his limits, and realizing that though things have changed, his life isn't over like he once thought it was. And so he had the blade kind of reforged and in exactly the same style it was before, but you can actually see the seams where it has been rejoined and fused back together. And I believe when you get like the epic version of it, it has like the gold like fragments that you can see going through it. So yeah, like that's what the blade is about for Talon.
Did Talon teach himself how to fight in the combat wheelchair? Was it all a self-exploration kind of learning process?
It was some of that, and then some of the stuff that he learned was also from interacting with Jalaxel's crew. So like Talon became very proficient at climbing using only his top half, which is very much a very real thing that some wheelchair users can do on YouTube, and it's amazing to watch them do it. So he would like have practice and stuff like climbing rigging, for example, on the Heartbreaker or the Eye Catcher, and like in coming across other people on his adventures that also either were trained in helping students that used wheelchairs to, you know, learn combat, or whether he learned from people who used wheelchairs in combat. He kind of had like a journey of learning stuff from actual people who knew what to do and how to go about doing it, and then also kind of his own exploration as well, just so he could put his own twist on things, find things that work best for him, and things like that. So yeah, it was very much like a journey of actual learning, as in like other people coming in and teaching him, but also finding his own way and navigating his disability and coming to terms with living with your disability, and seeing it in a way that isn't, you know, something to be kind of ignored or to be ashamed of.
I'm not gonna lie, I really want an animated montage of that now.
yeah, like a training montage.
Yeah. Eye of the Tiger playing in the background. Yeah, there we go.
Yeah.
Montage.
Champion's Badge. The flavor text on this is Nat made it after my latest argument with Jalaxel. I have no idea where she got the feather. Is that Nat from the Three Urchins?
Yeah, Nat Squidly and Jenks.
Oh, I love them.
in one of the tweets I made, which was like little snippets of like information about Talon. Talon actually knows how to use common sign language, and he learned that from Nat Squidly and Jenks.
I love that.
As Nat is deaf.
Yep.
So he didn't just learn like common sign language, he also like learned their specific version of sign language that they have for when they're up to mischief as well. When Talon was kind of between places after leaving the Breakendarth, is when, you know, he found these, you know, Nat Squidly and Jenks, and they kind of did the, you know, the duckling imprint on him. So he's kind of like, I guess, a fatherish figure, a terrible father figure in my opinion, but a father figure nonetheless. He was pretty much down about it, and that item also, the feather, I don't know if people have recognized, but it was very deliberately like that color and that style of a feather for a reason, which I think is hilarious because it implies that Nat somehow stole a feather from Jalaxel's hat to make a little badge to cheer Talon up. I think that's really sweet. Yeah, so that was such like a cute item to add. It really added like a lot of flavors like into the kind of relationships that Talon has outside of just himself. So it was nice to have something represent that, hey, you know, he's met Nat Squidly and Jenks as well as like other characters, and it kind of helped cement him a little bit more in the setting, a little easier, I think. So yeah, that was a really cute item, and I really like that. I don't know where she got the feather from comment.
I like that because it does. I love the Talon's backstory for multiple reasons, but I do love how tight it is to Waterdeep Dragon Eyes, and I realize that's because that's where you played him. But like, I love that because it really shows how pre-written campaigns form these characters that we make. That like these pre-written characters do influence the ones that we make. I absolutely love that.
Yeah.
Prismatic Lamp is next. The flavor text is "The champions don't give up. Never forget that." So what's going on with the lamp?
The lamp is kind of trying to think of the word. It's like a reminder from a quest that he and now that name has gone from my head. Wait a second. Solon, that's the word. That he and Solon went on during like the Bragendarth years, and it was to retrieve an item from a banshee. Well, from a crypt that was known for having a banshee.
Oh, we talked about banshees last week.
I love banshees. They're so like underutilized, like an underutilized monster, and they're very fun. Yeah, he had to like go and retrieve this item. The item turned out to actually be this lamp. And I can't remember what the other thing was. The other thing was like the thing that they actually wanted because it had like value to sell on. But the lamp was like, Talon was like, yo, that's really like cool. Like I want to keep that. You know, it was his first mission he'd done with the Bragendarth using his combat wheelchair. So to him, it was like,
Nice.
it was like, you know, a reminder of an achievement of like, I did this thing, I did it myself. You know, and to have it attached to his chair, I think was, you know, really important, because it you know, it acts as a reminder that, you know, he's still this completely capable character, who goes on adventures, and has a lot of fun going on those adventures. Even when the adventures go terribly wrong, he's still having fun.
That's fun,
You know,
part, right?
they might be horrible in the moment, but afterwards he can have a good laugh at like how, you know, Solon was nearly killed by a banshee that was really angry. Like, so
This lamp is to remind me of the time my friend almost died. Also adventure.
yeah, and also as well, like I wanted something about the combat wheelchair when I was making it for the game that I was playing in. It's something that kind of like screamed out that, hey, this is Talon's chair, and this is what makes it look like Talon's chair, is like these small things, like the lamp and the design of the wheels, are all things that make it Talon's chair. That if you looked at it, you'd be like, oh yes, that one's like Talon's combat wheelchair, and it's different from another different combat wheelchair you might see.
Nice. So the smoke powder tax. Baloth makes
Very useful.
Baloth makes his big entrance, and I'm on our exit. Oh my god, I cannot read today. Baloth makes his big entrance, and I'm on our exit distraction. Got it. So tell us about those.
The whole like tax thing, I believe people have asked if like why not just saying like caltrops? Why not just say caltrops? And I was like, well, it's because it's an upgrade in the combat wheelchair PDF called scatter tax. Yeah, so a lot of the actual like items and things are related to things from the combat wheelchair PDF because we wanted to integrate those. So Talon having scatter tax, the upgrade is a bag of tarp that's kind of loosely held together, and a rope piece goes all the way around to the seat of the chair, where there is a hook and like a very kind of loose kind of slip knot. And basically what he does is he just unhooks it with his finger as he's making an escape, and all the scat attacks just fall out of this bag behind him. And the smoke ones in particular there, they cause like a visual distraction of like smoke fog to appear. And I really wanted that when I made the combat wheelchair originally for like when I was making Talon. Like I really wanted that to be a part of it because it felt to me very roguish, and also Talon's all about like traps and things. And one of his things that he did in our game is he had advantage on making traps specifically that were designed to ensnare or trip up wheels, because he knew what displacement would be required. From having a wheelchair himself, he'd know like how would a wagon like tip slightly if I just put a certain trap under a certain wheel at a certain angle. So we played around with that idea in the game as well, which I think was really fun. And yeah, like there are a lot of things on Talon's chair that didn't make it into Idle Champions. But there are a lot of like rigs and traps and things. There's a really fun one, which is like it's basically a symbol of like warding, a glyph of warding. That's the word. So if somebody like without his consent tries to grab his wheelchair, they get blown back because it is very much a hated thing that wheelchair users have that problem where people think they're being helpful and will just suddenly grab their wheelchair without asking, which is the same as if you went up to an able-bodied person and just suddenly picked them up off the ground. Like you wouldn't do that.
Yeah,
like,
I've discovered my wife doesn't like that. So
I love like practical applications of magic. Like I have this problem. How can I use magic to solve it? And maybe it's not like I'm going to destroy a dragon, but it's like, how do I make my life a little better? And so this is, I love this. I love this. Sorry.
Yeah, and it was
the image of it makes me so happy.
And I think one of the party members when I played Talon, when we were camping, and like they were like, "Oh, is it all right that you've left your combat wheelchair outside? Because like it is." It costs a lot of money, especially with all the upgrades on it. Talon's like, oh no, it's fine, because if anybody touches it, I guess I have the magical equivalent of like a car alarm. Just a really powerful car alarm.
See, at first I was relating it to Blade's sword, where if the wrong person picks up, the blades shoot out of it. But now, after thinking about like, I don't know why, now I'm thinking of like James Bond level, like somebody sits down and just thrown up in the air.
Yeah, like that obviously couldn't make it like into the game because there's no real mechanic for it like in the game, but
it's in everybody's headcanon of the game now.
Yes,
but on his actual like combat wheelchair, that he has that, and it has gone off a couple of times, and it's been really funny each time.
Love it. Let's see, our next item is Ornate Gloves of Speed. Watch me now.
Yeah, that's also from the it's related to the combat wheelchair PDF, because like most equipment, items, it comes with equipment. It has one of those pieces of equipment be fingerless gloves. And a lot of wheelchair users, myself included, when I'm using my chair, use them because when you are pushing yourself for long periods of time, it causes friction burns, or can just make your hands really like oversensitive from like taking impact because you're pushing the push rims. And each time it leveled up, like from like common, uncommon, epic, etc. That they got more and more fancy, and the Ornate Gloves of Speed are kind of a bit more like a magic item that they help him go faster. Instead, but yeah, they were related to the combat wheelchair PDF. In fact, like I've said, like a lot of the items are just related to the combat wheelchair, which I thought was really nice, like integrating it into like visual video game mechanics, which I really loved.
That is kind of cool, because now like because I know there's some artwork in the PDF, but now you can be like, no, that's what that looks like. You just point at the game. That's great. The last item is Slicer and Dicer, only for special occasions. I like that. I like that flavor text.
I like that too.
Only for special occasions. Yeah. So basically, that is also part of the combat wheelchair, specifically an upgrade sheet that I haven't made public beyond my Patreon yet, because they're still being play tested, and they're going to be coming out in like the nice fancy manuscript version of the combat wheelchair that I've been working on in my spare time. And basically it's what are they called in I believe it's like called like a discus toss or something like that, the upgrade is, and there are your push rims, and then clipped onto your push rims at enough of a distance that you can still use the push rims is a chakram.
Oh, that's
blade.
so cool.
And you can attach and detach them, and they have like the fun of because I think that there are boomerangs in D&D, but they're not very fun. And I was like, well, what if I made a really sharp, deadly, fun boomerang to hit people with? And
that
so
should be the title of this.
so he has two, one called Slicer, one called Dicer, and in his ultimate move is to do a ring toss, which is where he throws it towards one target, and it will hit everything on its way to that target and then hit everything on the way back before returning to his hand. So basically anything that's caught in like its immediate path gets absolutely whacked by it. Yeah, that was really cool. I like that we've got to make that his ultimate attack, and the only use it in special occasions is definitely a thing. Talon only really uses it when like they're overwhelmed, or there are too many people crowding around a certain other team member, and Talon will be like, I'll clear them up for you and just knock them down like Skittles. Which is fun.
I'm not gonna lie, this image I have in my head of Talon just reaching down to the wheels and then pulled up two chakras, it's like, that is so freaking cool. I love that.
Yeah, it was really, really fun. And like getting to see them in the game, like as how they like looked in my head and in our like table game, was really, really cool.
I love that. So that's the items that Talon gets in the game. But I want to talk a little bit about the combat wheelchair itself. I know these, like, obviously the PDF isn't, in Idle Champions the game, but the combat wheelchair itself is. And so I know you talked with Dylan last week about like how you came up with the idea for doing it, and if you, by the way, chat and listeners, if you haven't gone and watched that on YouTube yet, do recommend it. It's a very good conversation, and also there's some good Star Wars talk in there too.
Yeah, we got sidetracked by Star Wars: The Clone Wars at one point, and it was very fun.
Dylan, I love you, but when I saw that, I'm like, you've talked to me about tangents before, and now you going off on a tangent.
Just as an aside, after every new piece of streaming of new Star Wars content comes out, Dylan immediately hits me up, and we have this whole long conversation about it. So yeah, I get it. He is yeah. Anything about a galaxy far, far away will
Definitely.
So the combat wheelchair itself, so going into making it, because you said that at first you had a version of it and then had other people with disabilities take a look at it and just be like, oh, add maybe this and maybe that. How I know, like, from the writing side of things, like, you don't always take every piece of feedback. You're like, well, that maybe that's not true. How did you go about picking what you did for what the supplement itself got?
Well, with the whole like getting feedback, I think when I first took on making the combat wheelchair, I didn't realize how big of a project it would be, or like it would become. I was like, oh, kind of like rule sets, and then I was like, oh wait, no, that there's a lot of things that it would interact with within D&D, and I've got to like make it clear what it can and doesn't do. So yeah, that became like a really long process. And if I was always uncertain about an idea, I'd always reach out and ask someone like, hey, what do you think of this idea, before I actually, put like an hour or so much time into it for it to just not really work. And it was asking, a lot of the time I'd go to friends that I knew would be very honest. about what I was putting in, what I wasn't putting in, what was most important. And even then, when I released version 2.0, there were people who pointed out certain things like, hey, why does the beacon stone have a limit on how far it can move before it needs to like recharge for a moment? And I was like, oh wait, yeah, because technically players don't do that when they go up the stairs. I don't know why I thought of it that way. So I just changed it to be, it just knows when like you've reached the top or bottom of a flight of stairs and just settles down, and like, you know, you can just talk about moving on each of your turns. And even then, you know, like getting feedback like that was always like great. I kind of got used to seeing the more ridiculous amounts of certain types of feedback where like people were asking me to specify very bizarre things that like don't either come up in D&D. Like they were like, well, what if I specifically hit the chair's wheel? And I'm like, you can't specify a hit in D&D. Like, and then they'd be like, actually, and I was like, actually you can. And I'd be like, that's not in the rules as written. It might be in your table game, but it's not in D&D in
And if
general.
it is, that's for you to figure out.
Yes. Yeah. So and then I did make it so that if people wanted to play it in more hardcore, like, you know, D&D games, that, you know, the chair has to take 3 critical hits in succession before it's damaged. If it takes 5, it's completely irreparable, etc., etc. And like, you know, made that very clear that that was an optional ruling, because it was something that came in later to version 2.0, and that was because I didn't deem it as being necessarily very important to begin with. And it wasn't until a couple of friends mentioned, and I had a couple of DMs from people saying, hey, I play like a really hardcore D&D game, and we would just want to know how that would work, just so we can incorporate it. And I was like, yeah, no, that's fine. I'm happy to do that. You know, if you're playing in a game where like people are being thrown off cliffs and stuff every other day, then yeah, you'll probably need rule sets for that. So yeah, like it was all very much you kind of get used to ascertaining what is and what isn't a bad faith comment or a bad faith argument that somebody's trying to make in terms of feedback, because some people always will be very unnecessarily picky, which you know, is not always a great thing when you're trying to like make a rule set that works. And it's what playtesting is for as well. You know, so making sure that I took feedback as well from people who'd actually play tested the material and had, you know, put it in action in game and gone, hey, we ran into a bit of a speed bump with this rule, or hey, the wording doesn't make sense here, could you clear it up or clarify? Or you didn't take into account a very specific sort of situation, which is possible in like one of the published adventures. I think someone was playing a Tales from the Yawning Portal game, and there was like a very specific thing about an anti-magic field there, and I was like, oh yeah, good, because the beacon stone technically wouldn't work, and how would I then clarify what you would have to do? So yeah, like it's all very much about reading through it, and then I would go back and read through the PDF and, you know, think, is this person being genuine? Especially if they come in very rude, which I've had before, and I'm like, excuse me, I don't owe you my time if you're going to be rude.
That's something I learned recently helping out someone with a Kickstarter, was I'm just like, you put money into this and you coming in like guns blazing with this feedback. What are you doing?
Yeah. And even professionally, like working with people like Talsorian Games, I've had extremely rude feedback from people, and it's just like, you could have just said this stuff, because I completely agree with what you said is like wrong with the mechanical or the rule or whatever, or the adventure, but why did you feel the need to like say it the way you did? Like I'm more than happy to listen to feedback, but it makes it very, very difficult when people come in and are intentionally rude or aggressive about it, which always sucks, because then when you say, hey, maybe don't be rude or aggressive, and I'd actually listen to you, and then they're like, wow, you're being hostile, and it's like, you came in here you know, going off. But yeah, it's very much knowing what kind of feedback to take into consideration. I would even take bits of feedback and ask my friends about that feedback and go, do you think that's something worth broaching in the rule set? And they'd either go, no, that's very specific to like somebody clearly had a homebrew thing in their game and like they need to sort that out on their end because homebrewed items always interact weirdly with other homebrewed items. It's just how it is. So like always making sure that the feedback I was listening to was actually valid and worth it. Because if I sat there and did every single piece of feedback, the PDF would be like 9 million pages long at this point, and nobody would read it.
I thought when you were talking about the homebrew things interacting with homebrew things, when I did my Tomb of Annihilation game, one of my players played. They were like, "Hey, I found a homebrew for a Witcher class. Can I play it?" And I was like, "Okay, go ahead." And now I'm thinking, I'm like, dang, now I want to make that character with a combat wheelchair because that would be awesome. Combining two of your pieces of work there.
And I mean, like, the only like thing that I've really made where it actually interacts with homebrew is I made the combat wheelchair subclass called the Order of the Siphonic, which is a Blood Hunter order, and Blood Hunter is obviously Matt Mercer's homebrew. And it's all about harnessing chronic pain, putting it into psi energy and causing big damage, and also using it as a means to deflect and things like that. It's a lot of fun. And I was really proud of myself because Matt was like, "I like this. This is cool." And I was like, "Thank you, thank you." That means so much. But that was a really fun class, and that's the only time that I've actually gone out of my way and made a homebrew for my homebrew. Using somebody else's homebrew. A lot of homebrews going on.
A lot of brewing happening.
But the combat wheelchair surprisingly worked really well with Blood Hunter. And the point of all of the subclasses that I am still making, that they don't have to be used with the combat wheelchair. They can be used with any disabled, like physically disabled character, or like chronically ill character, because some of them focus on chronic fatigue, chronic pain, etc., such symptoms. And I like the whole subclass is just meant to show players what they could do and choose to interpret the rules as. That was really, really fun. For example, like the Rogue Thief has a climbing ability at 3rd level. And you could easily say, okay, like my combat wheelchair using character can still do that feat. They'll do it the same way that other people who use wheelchairs in real life learn how to rock climb, and learn to interpret it like that. It's all just to help people kind of broaden the imagination and how you can choose to have the chair work with the rule set, which is always been like a really fun thing that I've been doing lately. Like at the moment I'm making a sorcerer, and that one's a lot of fun as well.
Nice.
Feedback is always something you have to be careful with. Even if you do work in the industry, you have to be careful as well. If you're working with a company as well, because normally they outsource their play testers and things, and sometimes the feedback they have is absolutely valid, it's good criticism, and sometimes it's just somebody didn't enjoy it because their character died and that's somehow your fault, and it's like, okay. And sometimes it is like that, but yeah, you kind of get used to knowing what is good feedback that's worth listening to and taking into consideration.
That's awesome. I think we're gonna transition over into some questions. Let's see. The first one actually involve Beta. Beta, you okay over there, buddy? Okay, got the thumbs up. Basically, the question is this is from Starchaser 43. Question: how would Freely react to Talon's charming rogue?
I mean, it depends on like if he was like stealing stuff and being sneaky, I don't know, but if he was just like being nice and rolling along, and I mean, I feel like he'd be pretty captivated by those like spinning death wheels that he throws. I get one of those because I mean, I got a metal arm. I feel like that'd be a valid upgrade. Yeah. Mhm.
That's perfect. I don't think you could answer that question any better. I did not genuinely expect him to go right into the character. That's perfect.
He's never far away from
He's
me.
never far. Well, Lauren in the chat just simply says, frenemies are fun. But I'm picturing Lauren just going, frenemies are fun. Just with the fingers. Cassius335 says, do the Idle Champions artists need to be taking notes? I sense skin ideas. For different things that they could do with Talon there. That I actually thought about that earlier, if they do any costumes for Talon and what they might look like.
I'd been thinking about that myself actually. And I've been playing around with some of the sprites and stuff, and I have kind of decided on like if Talon had a Bragan Darth costume.
Ooh.
That would be cool.
And his wheelchair has, and all I'll say is his wheelchair wheels, they have a motif pattern of a spider web on them. So that's really fun. That was a lot of fun.
Jay did point out the text argument that they think that it was specifically referring to Jalaxel, but I still want that Brigand Darth one.
No, I definitely thought it was
my
the halter
God.
top with the rainbow.
Yeah,
coat.
no, I
It was,
think
what
that's
they were going for.
Oh yeah.
I would pay. I don't think chat wants to know how much I would pay for that costume.
I enjoy the idea of like dressing like your frenemy to mess with them. Right? Like,
Oh my god!
right? Like
absolute
it's his
power move.
Jalaxel costume, and he's like, I just like this outfit. What do you mean?
Talon's just the same, but he's wearing Jalaxel's hat.
The whole outfit.
Oh,
the whole outfit he did.
I actually have a piece of a sketch that I did of him wearing Jalaxel's hat, and because of the way his horns are, he can only have it over one horn. Like it kind of
Okay,
flops
horns,
over his other one.
I love that. So this one had to do with with the boots and the bangles, and I also believe B-Dave using them. But Jellybro11 says, this is why you should play Alexodon Assassin Rogue. You can stab someone and say, you forgot about the elephant in the room.
Oh no.
Oh my
my.
god, I love that so much. Eric Jordan is joining us in the chat. Thank you for being here, Eric. I always appreciate you being here. How would Frida, Freely, and Talon work together to fight Xanathar?
But Frida and Freely can't work together because they share a slot.
Our love is
Someone overlooked
forbidden.
that.
We've established that. You know, it's like by our powers combined, we would be too great. You know?
Like Frida would have so much like, oh my god, guys, slow down, we need to make a plan.
Okay, so
He's
how
not
about
I think the
we
question
can swap
should
it out
be
for Havilar.
Havilar,
Yeah, let's swap it
Frida,
out
and
for Havilar.
Talon, because then we just all action. I don't know. Is Talon a planner, or is he a man of action?
Talon is very much like in the video game as well. We use spot weakness, so he's very much like we'll test out to see, hey, what has a good effect against this enemy? How can I either rile them up and make them, get worse at fighting because they're clearly like affected by him messing with them, or if there is actually like anything damage wise that has a lot of impact on them. And if it were in my home game that I played him in, he has a really fun feature called Rough and Tumble in the Daredevil subclass, in which he can use his uncanny dodge to also pull someone down with him, and they also take half damage only as well. And he doesn't land prone. He's able to tumble and then land back up again. Kind of like if you ever see like in like NASCAR and stuff, the kind of cage rollers that are built into cars. It's kind of like that.
Nice.
So yeah, he's able to do like fun things like that. So I think he would very much be assessing like not from like the sidelines, but like assessing from a distance, but also close enough that he could help out one of the other characters if they needed it.
Freely has met the Xanathar. It went poorly, and so next time we meet, he probably would want to blast. Freely in a three-dimensional game would try and distract him, to rotate him, to keep his big eye on him, so that Talon and Havilar would have more room to work, and maybe only have to deal with the little eyes. Yeah, and then the little eyes. Although wait, Treavor, he's back there.
Oh yeah, no, yeah, we
little
got
bro.
Yeah, the hipster The hipster beholder has heard. He is floating your way.
So, new plan. Freely would actively try and grapple the Xanathar, if only to tie up his eye stalks into a hipster eye stalk. And if I got disintegrated or petrified and then disintegrated, it would be worth it.
Oh,
It'd be worth it.
Definitely.
Just nothing but the mechanical arm laying on the ground with the thumbs up. You know? That'd be all that was left of him. Yep. Mhm.
I will point out one thing that one thing I find delightful in addition is that Talon is a tiefling, which means that Farida's ability that boosts other tieflings gets a little bit better.
I did love at the beginning of the episode. The audio listeners they can see it, but when Sarah's like, "Oh, he's a tiefling," and she was like, "Yes, it was just yes."
Audible joy.
Yes. I by the way, as you all were describing that, I was blocking it out in my head in just the most anime badass style.
I feel like the one complication is I think Havilar would see Talon throw I've forgotten the word.
The chakram?
And slicer and dicer and be like, oh my god. And she would try to figure out how to do that with a glaive, which I really shouldn't be trying to do. She's like, I bet I could. So she might get distracted.
I just had flashbacks to two very different things. Xena with her chakram, and when you were like, I bet I could make that work. No, I couldn't, but I could. Ninja scroll, Tesai, throwing the double-edged sword. That's all I was thinking. I'm like, no, it can be done. Eat that thing. Why not? Just put a little backspin on it, and
that's one thing Havilar's good at. Figure out something to do with a glaive.
Mm-hmm. I mean, there's one thing to do with the glaive.
Havilar's ultimate should just be renamed Yeet.
It's true.
Is the imps though? They yeet themselves. They're auto yeet.
Self-yeeting imps. Yeah, it's true. It's interesting. Yeah.
I think the best time for me that Yeet's ever been used in a game is, long story short, my wife was playing a character who was Baba Yaga's granddaughter and had her in a doll thing, and we had to throw her into Baba Yaga's cauldron during a fight. And Tara goes, I don't know how to say this, I yeet my grandmother.
Oh my, yeah, that I just had like flashbacks to DMing Curse of Strahd. Oh my gosh. and you know, Strahd managed to get Irina for a moment, and like the party were there to stop the wedding. And it was like speak now, forever hold your peace. And one of the players went to stand up, but then it was Van Richten. It was Van Richten with a homemade bomb of all things, of holy water and like silver. and like I was meant to be serious, but I just shouted yeet. And I did it in Van Richten's voice, and everyone at the table just like immediately died. They were like, oh my god.
That's perfect.
It did hit Strahd square in the face though. It was a very good roll.
Perfect. Chef kiss.
Definitely deserved
roll
it.
to yeet at Strahd. Yeah.
Obo Lord is back. This was we were talking about Talon with Dragon Heist and all that. Lord says, I love hearing the stories of characters who have interacted with canon lore characters. It just enriches the characters and lore so much. And totally agree with that, Lauren. Garwar asks, question, what does the prismatic lamp do? Is it just a lamp? Does it have any magic associated with it?
It is one of those green flame candles.
Green flame.
Yeah.
Sorry, I had
Who
to.
doesn't love green flame?
Big fan of green flame.
Yeah, it's one of those, and it has a little engraving on it that like you can kind of like a touch switch where you can just put your hand over it and then move it away, and like it'll turn off and you can turn it back on again by touching it.
What I do with my wave mic and just entertain myself.
Yeah. Pretty much. So that's pretty much what that does.
Okay.
And it gets the prismatic title from as it levels up, the glass becomes like a stained glass, kind of almost like a Tiffany lamp, I guess you would describe it as, that kind of like pretty shapes and things within it, and it causes like, you know, a prismatic kind of light to refract.
I love that. Let's see. Star Chaser 43 says, Talon car alarms when you really want to protect your car. I do love the idea of that just being a company. Jellybro11. I like how it is now canon that there are cars in the Forgotten Realms, but there are only in Hell, and they are environmentally friendly as they only run on soul magic.
That is true. It's also I love the all of the dude bros having an issue with a combat wheelchair that had no issue with Mad Max
Dude,
inexplicably
right?
taking place in a furnace.
Yeah, and fun fact, in the more recent combat wheelchair manuscript that I'm currently writing, there is an option to kit up your wheelchair like a Mad Max car and just do whatever you want.
Yes.
Because people
Wrecking
asked,
ball on the back.
people were asking, they were like, "Oh, Descent into Avernus had like stuff," and then I looked at it and I was like, Mad Max, but on a wheelchair would be really cool. So yeah, I'm currently going through and like figuring out ideas on how can I make that a thing.
I would love if there was an upgrade that like let it go like as fast as a war machine, but you actually do have to use a soul coin.
A soul coin upgrade for wheelchairs.
Heck yeah.
Oh my god.
I mean, my friend Sam DeLev, IRL, has anti-crowd rims for cons that I will let them describe. They're like, yeah, when I don't want anybody around me, put these on. And it's Mad Max with a wheelchair. Yeah.
I think I'm saying this right. Shulwrath42 is actually responding to Jellybro11, but most gloss over the personal repercussions of destroying a soul in order to go for a joyride, to which Jathan added in the text document, no personal repercussions if you're already evil.
I mean, you didn't make the soul, you're just expending the soul, you know? Like who knows even what soul's in that soul coin?
I did love manipulating my players, though, into being like, but you'll destroy a soul forever and ever and ever, and they'll never exist again. And they're just like, but I want to go fast.
I made use of the fact that sometimes the coins still moan. So, yeah, somebody had a pouch full of them,
That's
and they were just like...
Although, at a point, you'd be like, all right, ching!
Yeah. Just to get him to be quiet.
See, I loved how imaginative one of my players was. He's like, so let me get this straight. It runs on soul coins or demon ichor. I'm like, yeah. He's like, okay, so we need to get some blades on the front that just funnel all the demon ichor into the engine. I'm just like, good God, sir.
Self-fueling car. What's the problem?
Yeah. He's like, we just keep going. Then they.
I must admit, that is terrible mileage, though. You know, you're like 10 miles per soul. You know, like that's then you know it's like smog and crap is like pumping out the back of it too. You're like, what even is that? Like, what is what's the
but you know every villain from Captain Planet lives in Avernus.
You really need to consider how many souls to the gallon it will go.
How many souls to the gallon?
You do. It'll go 300 hectares on a single bad person.
If it doesn't exist already, I feel like there is ample opportunity here to create some kind of monster that is what is left when you process the soul coins.
I love that.
And it comes out the back.
But I'm gonna be honest, I'm really upset with myself that one, I never thought of souls to the gallon, and that I didn't have like a little gauge on their freaking war machine that just says souls to the gallon on it.
It would be like of the pudding type, by the way, Aaron, the creature that is.
God,
gross. Say those things. But yes,
let's see. Star Chaser 43 says Xena meets Waterdeep via Talon's chakrams. I love Sarah's character. Let's see. Billiam Smith 84. Can you resurrect from just? Oh, actually, this question for Freely. Can you resurrect just from the arm?
I mean, I sure hope so. I mean, or Kira's in chat. She's the resident expert on like keeping me alive and alternatively returning me to life. So I believe Obolorn can speak to that for some.
How
some
many
authority.
times has that happened there, Freely?
You know, here's the thing. I don't think my boy has died yet. He's been a mind flayer and then been not a mind flayer. He has escaped death a number of times. You think he's died from all the crap he's been in, but he's kind of made it. Death Ward might have gone off a couple times. Yeah. Because Death Ward with a clutch lay on hands, that can change the whole fight right there. So, yeah.
Jay in the text document is adding to this creature that the soul coin makes out of the back of a war machine and says a cousin to the Cybriax perhaps for the soul monster.
That's the goo under the Cybriax. The
Oh,
Cybriax goo. There you go. That's my contribution to the episode. I know we're almost out of time. I'm leaving you with Cybriax
The
goo.
goo under the Cybriax is just the worst thing I've ever heard. Let me see if we got any last ones here that I can do real quick. I do like this one. Garwer said cattle pusher on the front, spikes on the wheels. Perfect. I think that is gonna do it for this week's episode. First, Sarah, thank you so much for being here. This has been absolute blast having you here and hearing about Talon. Where can people find you and what awesome things are you working on?
You can find me basically predominantly just on Twitter at Mustangs Art. It's pretty much where I do everything. I have links to like Patreon and Ko-fi there. That there is already content there that is free that I've already put out. There's the combat wheelchair. There are Witcher monster fighting prosthetics, sorceresses, and like mage priests, all that stuff in the Witcher conduit. Like prosthetics that they can use to cast spells. It also comes with handouts on if you want to play a blind witcher or a deaf witcher or a blind sorceress or a deaf sorceress, and how all that would work, like mechanics wise. And I also released pretty much nearly all of last year's subclasses that I made for the combat wheelchair, and they're all completely free for you to use and download. And let me know what you think of them. Apparently a lot of people are having fun with the monk one, which is Way of the Pandemonium, which is about building up kinetic energy using trinkets and then blasting it out
Again,
in
Aaron's
like very force
reaction,
waves.
perfection.
But yeah, so you can find me there, and starting on Thursday I will put like the time thing up on my Twitter when I can figure out the time, because it would be 1 a.m. on Friday for me. Everyone else will still be on Thursday. Sirenscape's Twitch channel. I will be playing a weekly Cyberpunk Red campaign. I am playing a character called Nyx Phosphate. She is one of the medics, and she uses a cyber chair, which is something that Artalsorian has been talking about but has not released yet, and it's very exciting, and I've seen the artwork and I've seen the rules, and it's all really fun. So yeah, that will be coming out soon, and I'm really excited for that. And there will also be some stuff coming out soon about some more miniatures from Strata Miniatures.
Yes.
We currently have Wave 1 and Wave 2 out. I have actually a couple of them on my desk. There's the Rogue.
I love it.
Really cool. It probably won't focus very well because of my face, but there we go.
There we
That's
go.
so cool.
Nice.
And we'll be having we want to do all of the main classes for D&D, hopefully, fingers crossed, and we want to do different D&D races as well that use chairs, and now my camera will not focus, and that is an absolute joy.
Snap your fingers near your face. That usually will make it kick in.
Oh.
Nope.
There we go.
Hey!
Pro tip.
That's it. Thank you for the absolute life hack.
I just imagine the camera kind of going, huh? Oh, hey.
But yeah, you can follow me on Twitter. Check out all that fun stuff. I have some interviews and things coming up next week, which will be very exciting to announce when I can legally. But
it's actually fun. I've been following you on Twitter since like early last year, before like this show was even concepted. Little did I know I would be talking to you on an Idol Champion show about your character.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. It's been an amazing couple of a couple of months especially.
Yeah.
So yeah, follow me on Twitter and
Highly recommend that you do.
see the fun things I'm doing and making.
And some awesome Star Wars tattoos.
Yes. Yeah. Spending my money on a big Star Wars sleeve.
Perfect. B-Dave, Aaron, where can people find you and what awesome things are you working on?
You can find me on Twitter at aaronmevans.com. No, what .com? I'm sorry. I don't know how to talk. At aaronmevans.org. You know what it is. It's because at the end of my stream show, I always say, check out Idle Champions at idlechampions.com. So at the end of a thing, I say, at idlechampions.com. Which you can check out there. Let me try again.
I'd go.
You can find me on Twitter at Aaron M. Evans. You can watch me on twitch.tv/Dungeon Scrawlers at 6:30 this week and every other normal week. We had our big finale last week. That was longer. Cecilia, who is definitely not a warlock. Yep, that's me.
Dave Walters, say words about things. Can find me all over the place. Not currently 7 days a week, only like 5 days a week now. So, I feel like that's progress. Don't even try and keep up with all of it. Just follow me on the tweetagrams at Dave Walters, and you'll see where I am.
He's
doing
awesome
stunts for Aaron.
You're doing stunts for Aaron.
Doing stunts for Aaron at aaronoftheThousandEvans.gov.
Oh my god! I
.tv.
need that website, don't I?
There you go.
I don't know what I'm going to put on it. I need to put something on my actual website, but
No, here's what it is. It's aaronoftheThousandEvans.com, and it's literally just 1,000 pictures of you. It's just the same picture over and over
And
again.
one B-Day.
Not even a mosaic.
Oh no,
Just-
but in the shape of a house. It's in the
Right.
shape of a house.
Sure. Done.
Sarah, this is what it's like here on the show.
Champions of Tangents.
It's true. We made it a long way on topic this
We
week. I'd
did.
like to
I'm
thank
proud
you.
of us.
And you know why that was? Because Aaron and I didn't talk. That was why. Well, into you, good sir, Treavor.
Yeah, I am Treavor Bettis. I am on a weekly D&D podcast called Difficulty Class, post every Friday and some Wednesdays when we talk about our games. And also, I actually have something to announce. I'm going to be on a new show here on twitch.tv/CNE Games starting tomorrow. Tomorrow at 11 a.m., we're going to be starting a new limited show called Champions of Psychology. I'm going to be the host, and then the people on it who actually know what they're talking about is going to be Mitra Jordan and Dr. B from if you follow him on Twitter, fantastic dude. Mitra's on Twitter now too, yeah. But yeah, so they're going to be talking about mental health and the ways that we use games to either help with that or kind of ignore it with that. And also there's going to be a couple things about lockdown and mental health and stuff like that. It's a show that I'm very excited about, and I'm glad I finally get to talk about. So yeah, join us back here tomorrow at 11 a.m. for the start of that show. But yeah, again, Sarah, thank you so much for being here. You've been an absolute joy to talk with, and I can't wait to keep using Talon in my formation because he's so freaking cool.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for inviting me on. It was really fun to talk about Talon. So yeah, it was cool.
Thank you to Jay for moderating in the chat as always, and having some absolute zingers in the text doc. Do not stop doing that. Thank you to Codename Entertainment for letting us get together and talk about some D&D. And if you missed some of the show, you can listen to it, the full thing, at 2 p.m. when this goes up as a podcast on all of your favorite podcast services. And if you have any questions or actually suggestions for topics, because not every week are we going to have something that's coming new to the game. Sometimes we go a little back into the game and pull something out to talk about the lore behind. So we'd love to know what lore you would like to know about from the game, and you can send in those suggestions to championsoflore@codenameentertainment.com.
Because if you don't think of something, we're just going to yell about the nine hells about
It's true. Oh
Forever.
man, we literally were talking one time about just having an episode where Aaron ranted about warlocks for a straight hour. B Dave and I weren't going to say anything.
Joke's on you. That's the content I subscribe for.
As a heads up for people live with us in the chat right now, Improvised Champions is taking a break this week. They'll be back January 25th. But if you're not with us live in the chat and you're listening on the podcast, we'd love to see you in the chat next week or whatever time you would be able to make it, because we have some fun here and people get some good jokes in the chat.
It's true.
Yeah. But until next week, Champions out. Bye, everybody.